So are you tired of your drives, of your drops always going into the net? Hey everyone, it's Tyler Strike from Universal Rackets, and today is going to be an amazing video because we're going to teach you how to get your drives, your drops, your dinks, and your volleys out of the net. Once again, if you're tired of hitting the ball in the net, once you're done this whole video, you will never hit the ball in the net again. We are going to be going over all the tips and all the tricks to get your ball out of the net and most importantly in the court to win more points. So let's get started with the drive. The number one reason why players miss the drive into the net is because they are swinging down or they are swinging forward. In order to get the ball over the net, you need to make sure that you do two things. Number one is you need to hit the ball up, right? But if I hit the ball up, it won't go over net. And number two, you need to hit the ball forward. So you need a mixture of hitting the ball up and forward to get it over the net. You need to think about your swing being low to high. Think 12 o'clock's up here, 6 o'clock's down here. Too many players, they either swing from like 1 to 7 or they swing from 3 to 9. You need to make sure that you swing from 6 to 12. You want to swing upwards, you don't want to swing downwards or forwards. So the first thing that you need to do to get your ball out of the net for the ground stroke or the drive or the return is swing low to high. A great tip to ensure that you always swing low to high and that you get the ball out of the net is you need to follow through higher than your shoulder. Once again, once I'm done this swing, watch, my paddle is going to finish higher than my shoulder. If you can catch the paddle with your opposite hand over your shoulder, that's going to ensure that you have a low to high swing path, and that's going to ensure that your ball never goes in the net again. So the first thing, again, I need you to get your swing path low to high to lift the ball up. And speaking about lift the ball, lifting the ball, you need to think that you're lifting the ball over the net. You're not tapping the ball over net, you are lifting. You are getting under and lifting the ball over the net. And that gets us into our next point, getting under the ball. Too many players, what they do is they do not get under the ball, and that forces them to hit down into the net. Not only do I have to swing low to high, not only that I have to think that I have to lift the ball, but also I need to get under the ball. Now, Tyler, how do we get under the ball? It's very simple. Number one, you can hold the paddle loose. If you hold the paddle tight, it is not going to be right. I want you to think, when I grip this paddle tight, look what happens with the paddle. Now when I swing, even if I swing, say the ball's here and I swing, look what's happening and I finish over my shoulder. Look, I'm swinging down on the ball. I'm making contact at the ball or on top of the ball. Now what I want you to watch is me holding the paddle loose. Watch, tight when I take the paddle back, loose when I take the paddle back. Tight when I take the paddle back, one or two hand, loose when I take the paddle back. By taking the paddle back loose, notice what's going to be happening. My butt cap is going to be higher than the tip of my paddle. The tip of my paddle is going to be facing downwards. When I release this paddle and I don't have a death grip on the paddle, scale to 1 to 10, 10 being super tight, 1 being dropping it, I'm going to be about 1.5 or 2. If you can be a little bit looser than you normally are, it's going to make a huge difference. Now, when I'm loose now, watch, here's the ball. Now, look, when I proceed with my swing low to high catching it, look, I'm getting under the ball. I'm proceeding with my swing path from 6 to 12, but now also I am getting up on the ball from 6 to 12. Watch, here's the ball. I'm swinging from 3 to 9 with the ball, even if I swing up, right? At contact 3 to 9, and then I swing up. Now by loosening the paddle, now when I swing, look, not only am I swinging 6 to 12 with my swing path, but look, now when I'm swinging 6 to 12, brushing up the back of the ball. So by loosening the paddle, that's going to allow your paddle to automatically get under the ball. So again, loosen the paddle, allow that paddle to drop. Another great tip to feel it if you're a kinetic learner is think that the tip of your paddle is weighted heavily. The moment that I release, the tip of the paddle is going to fall, right? Same thing, so release the paddle, point the tip down, think that it's heavy, and that's going to allow you to, again, get under and lift the ball. Another great tip to ensure that your paddle tip is facing down, when my paddle tip is facing down and I'm loose, my butt cap is facing up. So a great tip as well is to think that your butt cap is a flashlight. You are going to shine the flashlight as long as you can forward. That's going to orient the paddle tip down, and then you are going to be able to get up and under the ball and lift it over the net. So again, we're swinging 6 to 12. We're making sure that we think we're lifting the ball and we're holding our paddle loose and we're lifting the ball up over net. And we're going to be so much more consistent and we are never going to net the ball again. Now, we are going to get into our drops after this one tip. So that one tip is what? If you hit 2 balls in the net, where is the next ball going? You're Elon Musk. You are sending stuff up to outer space. If you ever net 2 balls, the next ball is going to be super high. In pickleball, the goal is about making adjustments. You're never going to be perfect. It's never going to work every single time. But what I don't want you to do, and please listen to this and take this out to the court, if you make the same mistake 2 times, you're not going to make it a third. This doesn't just count for getting the ball over the net. If the ball's super long 2 times, you're going to hit the next ball in the net. If I hit the ball in the net twice, the next ball is going to be super long. Elon Musk, right? If I hit the first 2 balls and I lose the point by going to the player on the right, maybe the next ball I'm going to hit to the person on the left. Always change it up. So if you ever hit the ball in the net, any shot, the next ball, I want you to miss long. Do not make the ball in the net 3 times. And again, for the ground strokes and the drives and the returns, we got you covered with all the different tips and all the different tricks by, again, dropping the paddle, getting under the ball 6 to 12, swinging upward, and fully following through. Now, it's kind of the same thing for the drop, okay? A lot of players, they net the ball with their drop because, again, they don't get under the ball, okay? So if I don't get under the ball and I don't get under with my paddle by holding it loose, what's going to happen? My paddle's going to be tight, I'm going to be here, and then again, I'm going to go forward and I'm not going to have enough juice. By holding the paddle loose, that's going to allow me to have leverage to lift the ball up. Now, a big thing, I don't want to get comments. I don't want to flip with my wrist. I'm not flipping pancakes, but I want to make sure I hold that paddle loose so I can really get under the ball. The second main reasons why players net their drops is because they do not follow through. Players, they just try to get the drops in. They just try to get the ball in, and what happens? They try to go, they don't end up swinging, and they don't have enough juice on it. In order to hit a drop and get it over net, and if you ever net your drop, I want you to think that you have to fully follow through and extend your paddle. Once again, if you ever hit the ball in the net, you need to fully follow through and extend your paddle. I want you to think with your drops, there's 2 things that can happen. Number 1, you can hit the ball in the net, and number 2, you can hit the ball too high and your opponent can take it out of the air. Which option is better? Option number 2, because what? How many balls have you had that were super high that you ended up missing, that you ended up hitting it back to your opponent and then they eventually got up to the kitchen? By hitting the ball too high, you're giving your opponent a chance to end it. By hitting the ball in the net too perfect, you're ending it yourself. So if you hit the ball in the net, what are you going to do? You're going to try to swing forward and follow through more. If you hit the ball super long, you're going to try to maybe hold the paddle looser or maybe not swing as much up. So if you ever hit the ball in the net, because this video is about getting the balls out in net, we're going to do one, keep the balls in court. However, though, again, if you hit a net, just think the next one, you need to go up and forward. So if I'm ever hitting my drop and it's going into the net, again, what am I going to do? The next one, again, more up and more forward, more lifting the ball up. The next reason why players hit their drops in the net is because they're falling off their back foot or they're moving at contact. If you think when you're moving at contact for your drop, it's going to force it to be in the net because your momentum isn't just going up and forward because your body's going to the side. If you want to get your drops out in the net, check. Is my body set before I hit? I want to make sure that I keep my body set before I hit. Prior to contact, when my opponent makes contact, I'm going to set. When the ball gets close to me, I'm going to set, and then I'm going to hit, and that's going to get the ball out of the net. So again, make sure that you hold the paddle loose to really lift the ball. Make sure that you set while you hit. And if you hit the ball in the net, where's the next ball going? It's going a little bit more upwards and forward. Think, if the ball goes in the net, I'm going to go more upwards. And last but not least, we would rather from now on hit the ball higher and pop it up higher to our opponents than give our opponents a low ball in the net and end the point ourselves. So again, I would rather have you go higher and then ease it in rather than just go too low every single time and end the point. That is huge. Make sure you take that away from this video. Now we are going to be talking about dinks and volleys. So let's come up to the kitchen. So players, they hit their dinks into the net for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is because their paddle face is tilted downward. Now, back at the baseline, you have more distance. The closer you get to the kitchen, the less distance you have to have. So you cannot just get under and lift the ball just like you would with a ground stroke. So a lot of players, they're in the improper grip. If your ball ever goes into the net with your dinks, it's probably because your paddle face is facing down. If you can open your paddle face up, that's going to allow you to get under the ball and never hit the ball in the net again. So again, if you ever net the ball, make sure you open your paddle face up a little bit and get that ball out of the net. The second reason is because players aren't following through, again, kind of like the drop. They're just trying to get the ball in. They're just trying to get it in. So they're going here and here. They're just pushing it. No, I need to go forward and up. I need to go forward and up. If you ever feel like you're hitting your dinks into the net consistently, I want you to think, are you fully extending through contact? Now, as we get more advanced, you want to push, keep it simple. But if you ever hit the ball into the net with your dinks, think, am I swinging up? I want you to think that the dink and the drop are kind of like the same swing, except the drop, you're swinging more up and forward because you have more distance to cover. The dink, you need less distance, so you're swinging less forward and more up. So I want you to think, if you ever hit the ball in the net, I want you to extend your paddle. The next thing that you need to do is get into your legs. And this is a huge one. So many players, they net the ball, they're not consistent with their dinks because they end up bending at their waist. If I can get into my legs and bend in my legs, that's going to allow me to lift the ball up, hopefully more than right there. So get into your legs, get down, get under the ball when you hit, and you're going to get your dinks out of the net. Now, we're going to be talking about the volleys, and this is huge. A lot of players, they hit the ball in the net for their volleys because their paddle is vertical. If my paddle is vertical at the net, and it is not higher than my arm fully extended with the tip of my paddle, it's going to go into the net. And let me explain this real quick. Again, where players go wrong is that their paddle's here, and when they swing, I got it, here we are, boom, right into the net. Again, high ball, here we are, boom, right into the net. Instead of having my paddle vertical, I need to turn my paddle diagonal, and then I need to hit the ball. If I ever hit the ball in the net, and the ball's lower, I need to open my paddle face just like the dink. A great rule of thumb to keep your balls out of the net is the lower your volley gets, the more you want to point your paddle tip down and open up your paddle. The higher the ball gets, the more you want to point your paddle tip up. But you don't want it to be vertical again until the ball is higher than the tip of your paddle. So again, make sure if you have a high ball, you're pointing the paddle tip diagonal instead of vertical. If you have a low ball, you're dropping the paddle just like you did for what? For your ground stroke, and you're going to be able to get under the ball over the net. If you make contact above the net for your volley, you need to make sure that you hit down into the court. How can we do that? Position our paddle vertical so we can swing down. However, if you're hitting a ball lower over net, more of a defensive neutral shot, you need to, just like the dink, point your paddle tip down so you can position your paddle face up so you can get under and lift the ball. So think again, paddle tip up for high balls, but diagonal, paddle tip down, diagonal for low balls, and you can always get your volleys out of the net. Now, once again, we went over the forehand, we went over the drop, we went over dinks, and we went over how to get our volleys over the net. The main thing is I gave you all the tips, I gave you all the tricks, but the main thing is never make the same mistake 3 times in a row. If you hit 2 balls in the net, again, Elon Musk, send it to the moon, and you're going to be so much better next time you play pickleball. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to share, make sure to save this video. Have a good one, happy hitting. Enter our paddle giveaways. We're giving away amazing Selkirk paddles, and we will see you guys next time on court.